Hello, and thanks again for joining us for another Fathom Live. It's we're doing it outside today. As you can see, it's beginning to look a lot like Christmas with all of our snow. So I'll be dusting snow off from time to time here throughout the show. I'm kidding. It's Dallas. We're very excited for the show today, and this is going to be our final show of the year, and then we'll pick up again in the new year with a bunch of stuff. But I'm glad you're joining us. Maybe you're watching because this is just purely entertaining and you just can't get enough of the good jokes and laughs and everything that we do on this show. Or maybe you're here because you just want to grow your business and you want to learn to be a better business person. And I'm going to assume that most of you are watching because it's the latter, which is why I'm thrilled to have our guest, Marco Freginal, today on the show. He's going to be talking about what makes the difference between just a real estate career in general and actually growing a full-fledged business. Full-fledged. I didn't know what that word was until I looked it up. We say it all the time. So if you want, that's going to be today's trivia. Full-fledged. You can't Google it. You have to take a guess what full-fledged, where the origin actually comes from. What does full-fledged mean? So comment in the notes below, or in the comments below, and let us know. We want to give you our Houseopedia tip of the week, these are just different ideas for homeowners, and you can download those on our show page. So if you go to the Fathom Careers website and go to the live show in our videos menu, or down at the bottom of our navigation, the live show, you'll see today's show, and you can download this image to post on your social media account. Here's the tip. If you have big ideas about redecorating a space but little money to get the job done, consider painting the walls. At $50 for 5 gallons of interior latex paint, a new paint color can make a big impact. Painting is also an achievable skill for a novice DIYer. Ask for help choosing brushes and rollers. Use painter's tape to protect trim and ceilings, and watch how-to videos on YouTube for tips on technique. And of course, as a realtor, you know that when you get into a space, one of the things you have to say from time to time is ignore the paint colors. They can be changed. This is a great space, etc., etc. We'd also like to thank our sponsor, Go Social Agent. They work with Houseopedia to provide you good content and affordable and effective social media marketing to help agents grow their business. That includes social media account setup, automated postings, agent-branded articles, buyer and seller handbooks, Facebook ad campaigns, and more. And this is to help you grow your online community and generate leads. You can learn more at GoSocialAgent.com. And if you're a Fathom agent, you get some of this stuff for free, which is really cool. They will help you with your account, making sure that there's new and relevant content there all the time for your viewers. So check that out. Also, if you haven't hit the notification bell on YouTube, do so. If you're having trouble watching it on YouTube, when we set out to stream today's video, it kind of turned it into a brand new video. So you might need to just go to the Fathom Realty YouTube channel and then see the video, the most recent video there, and that will be this live one playing right now. Our apologies for that, just a technical issue. And if you missed the last show with Josh Harley and Kristen Wright, I would encourage you to watch it. A lot of great stuff there about making your business a service business rather than a sales business. So, all right, all of that out of the way. If the snow annoys you, we can just turn it off. In fact, let's just turn it off. We'll just turn it off for the rest of the show. We can wave our magic wand and do that. Our guest today, and I'm very thrilled to have him on the show, is our Chief Financial Officer and the person who wears many, many other hats besides that. That's just the title, not all the function, is Marco Freginal. So, Marco, it's a pleasure and privilege to have you on the show today.
Hey, Jeffrey, how are you? It's a pleasure to be here, and I hope everybody's having a great week.
Thank you.
And I can see everybody enjoying the snow there behind you.
That's right. That's the only way we can get snow here in Dallas. So we got to make it up on our own.
I understand. As someone coming from Brazil, I understand.
Yeah. Did you ever see snow as a child?
Never. We don't. There isn't much snow in Brazil, so it's not something we see.
Well, I want to ask you kind of about I want to ask you about business and all that kind of stuff. But first,
Okay.
In talking with Josh, he said it would be kind of neat to hear your story of how you came to the U.S. and
Sure.
sort of became businessmen and all that kind of stuff. So how did you get here? I understand that you came actually before you were even a teenager. What was that like?
Sure. So I was born in Brazil. My parents are from Spain. They left Spain in the 50s after the Civil War and World War II, looking for a better life. As a matter of fact, they really wanted to go to Venezuela, but they couldn't get into a ship. Everybody wanted to go to Venezuela in those days. It's funny how things change, right?
Yeah,
Everybody wants to
yeah.
get out of Venezuela now. But and so the only place they could go is Brazil. So they went to Brazil in the early 50s. I was born in 63. So yes, you can do the math. And
You're 45.
and you know, when I was about 14 years old, my parents decided to go back to Spain. My parents are much older than they had me at a very late stage. I think my mom was in her late 40s when she had me,
Wow.
and they decided to go back to Spain. Let's just say that I was a very challenging child. I I was asked to leave from a Catholic school, and I was asked to leave from a military school. So, and I'm using the words asked to leave. And so my sister married an American. She lived in the U.S. And my parents asked my sister to kind of take me in for the summer in 1978. So I came to spend the summer with my sister. And let's just say it has been a long summer. I'm still here. I haven't been kicked out yet. So that's kind of the story. And you know, I've been living with my sister. She's kind of raised me from the age of 14.
Wow.
She's 23 years older than I am, and she really became my mom. And that's how I got to the U.S.
So you've been running business since a very early age, and I don't know how early,
16.
but 16. So what was that
My
first
I had my
business?
first company at 16 years old. I was in high school, and I had about 30. It varies from 20 to 40 high school kids, or MIA, working for me. And we would paint the numbers of the houses on the side of the curb. If you ever see that when you drive around, you see numbers of the house like on the curb. I had a whole business doing that. And
Did you do like the you know how people have like their favorite sports team or you know that kind of stuff on there? Or is it just the
Yeah, in those days we did different colors with fluorescent paint. We didn't do the sports teams and all of that, but I made a lot of money doing that and bought my first house at 16. And
No
so
kidding.
that was
Wow.
yeah, so that was kind of the beginning of learn about capitalism. And you know, I came from a socialist military dictatorship country, right? And so I learned about capitalism, and let's just say that I've been hooked ever since. But I was about 16 when I started. Yeah.
Wow. So from 16 to you joined Fathom
2012, May of
2012.
2012. Yeah,
So-
7.5 years ago.
What happened in between 16 and then?
Well, let's see. I think I've started about 8 or 9 companies in that. I've been in, I think, 7 different industries. I've been in the pizza business. I've been
Wait,
in
is
direct
that
mail.
that's not Marco's Pizza, is it?
No, it was not.
Oh,
Market
okay.
Pizza.
Unfortunately,
No, it was
right?
something else. Yeah. I was disappointed when I saw that, actually. I've been in direct mail business, in marketing. I've been in the portal. In 1999, I co-founded a website called HowStuffWorks.com, which became a pretty significant website in 99, 2000. I think at the peak, we're getting about 10 million visitors a month. I started several technology companies. I started a telecom company in Brazil. I'm going to be dating myself now. I started a paging company. Jeffrey, do you even know what a pager is, Jeffrey? I don't even know if you're old
I
enough.
do. I do know what a pager is, but they do seem a little bit archaic.
Yeah. So I quickly learned a lesson about that. So I started a paging company. We took it public in the U.S. I started a couple other software companies. So I've been very blessed to start lots of companies. Also be married to somebody who put up with my need to open companies and deal with the growth and all of that. So, but it's been quite a journey. Yes.
So how did you end up at Fathom? You hadn't previously been at a real estate company before, but you saw something in Fathom or in the people at Fathom?
No, my experience in real estate is, my wife and I buying homes, right? And that was pretty much my experience. I met Josh Harley early 2012. And we met through Paul Estes, who runs Go Social Agent. And he wanted to get into the real estate. And through connections and introductions and all that, he met with Josh and in early 2012, and then Paul introduced me to Josh, and Josh and I started talking, and he wanted to learn more about how to grow a business. I think in those days, maybe had 150 agents. Don't really remember the exact number.
Yeah.
But and we start talking about it, and now he tells a whole different story, which I'm sure someday you share it.
Yeah, we need to get that. We need to get that on the show sometime.
Yeah, I
don't
think
we?
we'll do that
So
next.
that's a
You can get
public.
it's an interesting story. And he asked me to join, and I've always felt that the real estate industry was dysfunctional. Never really understood why agents share so much of their money with their brokers. That was part of it. Second, I think when you meet Josh, you can only fall in love with the guy. I mean, he is one of the most caring, honest people I've ever met, and visionary. Sees the industry very different than most people. And I think he was willing to put up with my craziness, and and so we started working together in early 2012, and here we are, 7.5 years later.
So, I mean, I know there's people watching, but be honest. What's it like to work with Josh?
Oh,
Little.
it's the
Let's
best.
let's hear the inside scoop.
No, it's the best experience. I mean, he is one of the most, first of all, intelligent. I mean, incredibly intelligent. He sees things in a very different way than I do sometimes, which makes our partnership work so well.
Yeah.
But we share the same values about how we want to treat people, how we want to work with everyone. He's extremely creative where I'm not. I'm much more operational. He's much more creative. No, it has been, I'm very blessed. I thank God every day for, he allows me to do 10,000 things and feed my ADD. and so we I think we make a great team. I was just talking in a meeting with him. In 7.5 years, we have never had one single argument, ever. I think we respect each other. We understand how to work with each other. We trust each other. It's a great partnership, and been very blessed. And we're looking forward for the next 7.5 years and more. So,
very good. You touched on the real estate industry, and you saw there's an opportunity here. Why did you feel that the industry needed to change?
Well, I mean, I think because for lots of reasons. But one is if you look at the traditional real estate model. It's the same model that, for the most part, from a broker standpoint, is the same model that was 30, 40 years ago. From a business plan, compensation of agents, it hasn't really changed for many, many years. Now, technology has changed a great deal, right? But the brokerage model has not. And it's beginning to. I mean, we've seen some changes, but 90% of our agents are still working for a brick and mortar traditional real estate company,
right,
paying 20, 30% of their commission, in some cases much higher. And so it's an industry that hasn't changed. It may be one of the last multi-billion-dollar industries that has not changed. If you look at so many industries have changed, right? The movie rental business, we know what has happened, right? To Netflix and Blockbuster. The auto industry, dealerships used to make money from selling cars. Now they don't make any money selling cars. They make money servicing cars, right? And so the travel agency industry, look at how it's changed. So the real estate industry hasn't changed a great deal. It's beginning to, and certainly there are a lot of companies providing new technology and services, a lot of money coming into the industry. But I think that from the brokerage model, the significant majority of agents are still working for traditional brands. And I think that's going to go through major change in the next 10 years.
So on that then, what would you say from an optimist standpoint, or I mean even a realist, what are the most exciting things coming down the pike, you think, in the industry?
Oh my God, there's so many things. I think there are primarily two significant things happening in the industry. One is how technology is going to change the industry, right? All the different aspects of technology, how the consumer search for property, they view properties. I'm excited to see how virtual reality is going to change the real estate industry. How That is going to, I think virtual reality is going to have a significant impact in the industry. I think artificial intelligence is going to have a significant impact. So technology is I think we're at the very early stages of how predictive analytics, how's that? We as an industry are not leveraging big data. I come from my previous company before this was a big data company. And I worked with lots of brands who do predictive analytics and big data analysis. This industry is still in its very early stages of leveraging that. So the technology, one aspect. The other aspect is the brokerage model. What is the brokerage model going to look like, right? Down the road, and how's it going to change? I think most brokerages look at the agent as an employee, as the agent works for the brokerage. I think one of the things that Fathom is unique, and others are beginning to change, is that we look at the agent as our customer. And so if in a sense, we're really a service provider. We're providing the real estate agent a business platform in which they can conduct their business. And so the mindset, the brokerage model, I think both of those things, technology and the brokerage model, are going to change significantly in the next 10 years. And that's very exciting.
So kind of on the technology side, I don't know if this is the right way of looking at it, but if you looked at it as a spectrum, you have kind of the traditional brick and mortar companies, and then way over on the other side, you have these sort of iBuyer programs or companies where that a lot of money is being dumped into, like Purple Bricks or was it Redify, Homey, where it almost entirely cuts the agents out of the picture. So and maybe Fathom somewhere kind of in between all of that. So what do you think about these kind of far edge companies and what they're doing?
Well, let me pull out my crystal ball and tell you what this is going to look like. So, look, nobody really knows, right? I mean, anybody who tells you they know what's going to happen, I mean, come on. I mean, I think what's exciting is that there are lots of different models, and everybody's trying to figure out what is their place in the spectrum, right? And so, what I believe is that there's going to be room for lots of different models out there, right? And I think it's just a matter of trying to find your space. But at the end of the day, you have to provide value, right? You got to provide value to the real estate agent, and you have to provide value to the end consumer, right? And so just because you think you're less expensive and all of that doesn't mean that's the totality of the value that you can offer, right? And so you have to understand what the needs are, the consumer, understand what the needs are, the real estate agent, and then figure out what your place is in that spectrum, right? And how you're going to provide value. And I think that what's exciting in this new environment that we live is that more and more companies are beginning to start thinking about that, right? Which helps the competition, which helps to improve the value that everybody offers. Competition is a good thing, right? You want competition because competition makes everybody do better. And certainly the companies that can compete and excel are going to, benefit from that. And so we're excited for that. But nobody really knows, right? I mean, I think everybody's excited about iBuyer, and certainly it's taking its share of the market. But there are a lot of different other things happening in technology and services. So it's a really exciting time for younger companies like us. And probably, I would say it's a scary time for some more traditional companies who are trying to figure out how do they change their model, right? So it's
do they follow suit, or do they just kind of stay the course and hope for the best?
Right. It's an exciting time and it's a scary time at the same time, right?
Do you ever see technology just wholesale replacing the agent?
No. I think real estate is an interesting model that people still want somebody who knows the area. People want somebody who understands the neighborhoods and all of that. And compensation may change, right? I think that the business model may change, but I think individuals, we are still human beings and we still like dealing with people. Even though I think some people think millennials don't, but they do in a different way. They do. So no, I think the agent's still going to play a significant part on this. How they'll do it, how they'll be compensated, that the jury's still out on that, right? But I think they'll always have a significant part. We are not believing the model that the real estate agent is going to be eliminated from that equation. I think that is not correct. And we're very excited about how Fathom can play a role, working with our agents, serving our agents, dealing with these changes, try to anticipate how we can help our agents be much more successful. Remember, the key thing that I said before is that we look at our agent as our client, as our customer. And so by doing that, it forces us to think about how do we help an agent be more successful, right?
Right.
And so it's the mindset that we bring that I think is relevant and makes sense in dealing with all these different changes.
So I'm going to kind of shift gears then, talking about
Sure.
making an agent successful, and that's part of what we want to do on the show is help people
Yep.
take their business to the next level. And you're coming into this industry not as somebody who's a real estate agent, but somebody who's ran businesses and had different lessons in business. So and not only that, I mean, you see on a day-to-day basis sort of a 30,000 feet view of the agents in our company. So just from that perspective, very basically, who do you see, or what kind of person do you see makes the best agent?
Well, I mean, look, so the challenge when you say the word agent, that means different things to different people, right? And
Sure.
so there are agents that want to be part-time agents, and they're perfectly fine making, an extra income selling 3, 4, 5 homes a year. And there are agents who look at this as a career in a way that they're, trying to build a business with 20, 30, 100 transactors. So two different kinds of, agents, the way you group them. You certainly have to have certain characteristics as a person to be an agent. I mean, I tell agents all the time, you are a salesperson. Some agents don't like to hear that, but, to be a good agent, you have to be a good salesperson. People have to like you, right? I mean, it's the reality is that we tend to buy from or work with people we like. And so you have to be likable. You have to, enjoy working with people, like people, and like helping people. I mean, it's, a real estate agent has such a key part of helping someone buy a home, which is, the largest purchase someone is going to make in their lifetime for the 99.9%, right? And so you are helping that. You're participating in that process, not only helping someone buy, but also helping someone sell. And they could be going through all kinds of different situations on their selling part, whether it's life change or family change, or so a real estate agent can be somebody that can really help people deal with this experience, which could be a really positive experience or a negative experience, depending on where they are, right? So you have to be somebody who likes to work with people, likes to help people. You have to be likable. You have to be organized. You're dealing with lots of contracts, and knowledgeable. You have to want to learn about the industry. On the other side, in terms of looking at somebody to be really successful and make a career in a business, I think the thing that I see most common around real estate agents across the country, at Fathom and outside Fathom, is that sometimes they don't think like a CEO. They're thinking like an employee. They're thinking like, I work for real estate, I'm an employee, I make money, through the transaction,
Right.
as opposed to start thinking like, this is a business and I am the CEO of the business,
So
and think like a business person.
So, and I'll also mention to our viewers, if you have a question for Marco, feel free to ask it. I'm monitoring both Facebook and YouTube here, so feel free to jump in and ask. So, what does that look like practically? If I say, okay, I need to stop thinking like an employee, start thinking like a CEO, how is that going to change my business?
Well, it changed your business because you think differently, right? As a CEO of the business, the first thing is as a CEO of any business, you start thinking about your resources, right? What are the resources I have? The first thing is first resource is your time. So I ask agents all the time, what is 1 hour of your time worth? And I rarely get an answer. They don't think of their time as has a dollar value. It's a resource. How many hours a day are you going to work? What is the return you want on your time? So the first thing you should figure out is, what is 1 hour of your time worth, right? Second, if you think about as a CEO, you have to educate yourself, right? Are you investing money to educate yourself as the person running this business, right? And then, what is your plan? What are your goals, right? People that run businesses, they have business plans, they have goals, they have budgets, they have goals that you're trying to reach, right? And so when I talk to most agents, even agents who have large, even teams, I ask them, okay, what is your goal for this year? And a lot of them don't even think that way. So if you're running a business, these are the characteristics, right? You have to have a goal, you have to have a budget, you have to think about what you're trying to achieve, and what is your time worth. And there's a key component of that, because depending what you think your time is worth is how they use other resources to pay for that. So for example, I'll give you a quick one: transaction management. Okay, if I'm going to spend X number of hours on a transaction and I believe my time is worth a certain amount, if I can then outsource this to somebody else to do it for a less amount, that's what a business person does, because now I can use my time to do other things much more productively. And so you have to start thinking like a business person. And so invest in yourself. What is your goal? And then having a budget and a plan to measure that.
So if I'm understanding it, an employee might think, what do I just need to do to get to the next, the end of the month? Or I'm thinking just kind of transaction to transaction, not necessarily is this business
Yeah, it's a short term
profitable.
versus long term, right? An employee looks at next transaction. I'm just trying to get money from next transaction. A business owner thinks about investing themselves, right? They invest in the business. They understand what the return on the investment is, and they invest on themselves. So they build a team or build a bigger business. It's a mindset. And a person also who's running a business, they learn. They want to learn about running a business. They want to learn about investing in yourself. They want to learn about lead generation. They want to know, how do I grow my business? And they have a plan. They have a plan
Right.
together. They measure, right? Anything worth doing is worth measuring. And so they also measure their success or lack thereof throughout this process.
It was interesting because I was talking with somebody. My wife and I, we had a trip out to see family, and we were at a Christmas get together, and I was talking to somebody not in the industry about what real estate agents do. They got to produce their own business, and some years it's really great, and some years it could be economically or where they moved to or whatever, it's really tough. And his response to the gentleman I was talking to said, well, that just doesn't seem like a real great way to live your life because there's the ups and downs. And I say, yes, unless, like you're talking about, you think like, okay, what am I trying to do over the next 3 or 5 years? Because I can handle ups and downs over 3 or 5 years versus somebody that I couldn't handle not getting the same exact transactions I did in the last 12 months. Otherwise, I'm.
Sure, and that's part of it. So part of it is knowing that this industry has seasonality, right? In the summer months tend to be the peak, and then the winter months is the opposite. There are different markets that don't follow that, but for the most part, it's a seasonal business. You have to know that, when it comes to November, December, January, February, where you're going down to the low, that you have to save some money to deal with that, right? So a business, but if you're running a business that's seasonal, you do the same thing. When you look at your budget, you know that you're going to make more revenue in those summer months and make less. So we run, any brokerage has the same issues, right? But you start thinking like as a business person, which has a very different mind, and it really is a mindset, right? It's a mindset to learn how to do it. It's a mindset to understand how you're going to grow your business, how to invest in yourself. And it's a mindset that a lot of agents unfortunately don't have. But the truly successful ones, they do think like a business person.
So I want to ask you more about that kind of investment aspect here in a moment. But before that, what do you see causes the major causes for burnout in agents, where you see agents just hang it up?
Yeah. That's lots of reasons for that, but certainly dealing with the seasonality, right? You get really busy, make money, then you don't, right? The other thing that you see is agents that and they see this up and down throughout the year. Like when I look at an agent, I said, let me see your productivity, and you see like you do a bunch of closes, you do nothing. You do a bunch of closes, you do nothing. You do a few closes, you do nothing. It's because they're not investing long term in their business. And so think about it. They get really busy, they don't do any marketing, right? They close that, then they do no transaction, they start doing marketing again. Then they close, so it's, I think that up and down is difficult for a lot of people. The uncertainty is difficult for a lot of people, and there's some challenges on that. And people get burnt out. Part of that also is expectation. Every time I meet a new agent, I ask them, why did you get into this industry? And, often I get the answer is, well, I like people and I like homes, and that's why I'm in the industry. Well, that's not good enough, right? You have to understand that you are a salesperson. So they come into the industry expecting that's going to be really easy. They're going to come in, they're going to sell houses right away and list houses right away. And so when they
Right.
realize how difficult this is, they basically realize, okay, this is much more difficult, right? And so they burn out very quickly because of the expectation that I can do this very easily. They don't realize that this is a tough industry and you have to work really hard. Some of them come with the wrong expectation.
So, and I don't want to beat a dead horse here, but let's say you have an agent that, I mean, they're trying, but they're kind of hitting that, less than national average for a full-time agent mark versus the agent that is consistently doing 20 plus deals a year
Yep.
and making a nice income from that. What are the habits or the things that you see that are different in those two agents?
Well, I mean, it's, are you investing in yourself, right? Are you investing? There's two ways you can go, right? You have a very large network of people that can help, and you can start getting referrals from that, or you're going to invest in lead generation, right? So you got to go one of the two, and sometimes you can do both, right? So when I look at an agent that said, who has been less successful than they would like to do, I want to have a conversation about how are you marketing yourself. And just because I have, my network of individuals and friends is very large, are you asking for referrals? I mean, are you out there marketing yourself, right? Whether it is your network of friends and all people or you're doing it through lead generation. But you have to market yourself. You have to let people know that you can help them. So what is the effort in which you're doing this to market yourself? That's the first. And I would tell you that 90% of the time, if not more, you find that they're just not doing enough. They're not doing enough to be successful, whether because they had the wrong perception of, this is going to be much easier than I thought, much harder, or whatever it is, but they're not doing enough work to be successful. There's a lack of knowledge of how hard this is and the amount of time they have to take it to be successful.
So, if you don't mind, I'd like to park on lead generation here for just a minute. What are you seeing as the best ways, whether that's, your sphere of influence or paid leads? What are you seeing as the best ways agents are taking advantage of that? And then I'll ask kind of both at once here. How then do agents evaluate the success of this? Because you've talked about your time is money.
Yep.
So how does an agent evaluate that? And do you see misevaluations ever happening on that front?
So the reality, the best program is what works for you, right? I've seen programs that work in one area don't work in other areas, right? And so you have to try different things in order to figure out what works in your area. Not every program, not every lead generation works the same in every zip code in every area. So you have to try different things. That's number one. Just because you hear your friend is doing well with one lead generation company does not mean that you're going to do well at the same time in your zip code in your area. So again, that's number one. Okay, lead generation does not work in similar ways across the country. That is not true. Second, the challenge with lead generation and spending money is that agents start doing it without understanding what is the result I expect. And so I tell agents, before you spend a single dollar in marketing, what results do you expect from that?
Right.
Because what happens, I talk to agents all the time and I said, you do lead generation? Yes, I do. Great. How much money you're spending? What kind of results are you getting? And, they'll tell me what it is. And I say, are you happy with it? And you get this blank look because they don't even know because they didn't set the goals. So it's setting the goal so then you can measure against the goal. But also understanding economics. Most agents that spend money in lead generation don't really understand ROI and don't really understand, which is probably the most important thing, cost of acquisition. So let me give you a quick example, okay? So let's say you're generating leads and you got 100 leads and you got one closing at 100 leads, right? I have agents that said, yeah, I spend money, I generated 100 leads, but I only got one closing, I'm going to stop, it's not worthwhile doing it. Well, if you got one closing at 100, that's 1%. But if from that closing you generated, let's say $9,000, and that cost you $1,500, so you net $7,500, then you got to pay your brokerage. A lot of people will invest $1,500 to make $7,500, right?
Right.
For say 6 months, right? Think about if you're buying a stock. You're investing $1,500 in a stock, and 6 months later it's worth 7,500.
It's a great
I
stock.
don't know about you, but I'll do that all day long, right?
Right.
They don't understand that, and they think, well, I only got 1 out of 100. That's not a good return. I stopped doing it. I'm like, why would you stop doing it? You just made 7,500 again, minus whatever you have to pay your brokerage from their investment. And so they go in not understanding what the expected result is. And when they get whatever the result is, they don't even know how to measure, and they don't sit down and think about the numbers and realize, oh my God, I invested 1,500 and I netted 7,500. Again, minus the broker's cost. I'm gonna leave that aside because everybody has different ones.
Right.
But so it's understanding what you expect and what is a good number, right? So then you can make investments. Too many agents make an investment in leads and they don't have an expectation. And by the way, 1 out of 100, if that's the cost structure, 1,500 to 7,500, it's a pretty good investment. So
Right. So then I can go from that number. So I take my 7,500 minus my broker split, and I divide that by how many hours I had to spend on that transaction and marketing and all that kind of stuff. And then there I have how much I'm
and then
being
you can
paid per hour.
Right. You can start figure out, what you make per hour, what your cost is per hour. At what point do I hire transaction management? At what point do I hire someone to do my social media, like Go Social Agent, for example, so I don't have to do that, so I can do more business, especially if I'm investing in myself to generate more leads, and I have, again, a reasonable expectation. I talked to an agent the other day who said, well, I'm going to invest in leads, but if I don't get a 5 or 6% return, I'm gonna stop doing it. I mean, those are just unrealistic expectations about lead generation. So again, educating yourself about the business and start thinking differently about how you want to run the business is very important if you want to make this a real career and a real business, right?
So, scenario time here. If you're, let's say, and maybe this will help. Hopefully, this won't feed your ADD too much. That you just
I don't do what if statements as a CFO.
So what if? So let's just say Marco hangs up the leadership role, and you're just going to jump into real estate.
Josh fired me.
Josh, enough's enough. And
got anymore.
You have that first argument, and it's a doozy. So you got 30 days into your real estate career. What would you do in your first 30 days as a business owner?
Well, given my situation and given what I know about the industry, I would start building a team, and I would start lead generation right away, right? I know it takes a while to do that, but I identify areas and markets which there is a good relationship between lead cost and lead conversion and the price of the house, and then really map this out. I'm a numbers guy. I would map this out and then figure out the optimal list, and then start identifying agents that would be part of a team and set the expectations. But I don't typically do anything small, so I would build a big team, but it would be very organized. It would be very process oriented, understanding the numbers inside and out. But there is an enormous opportunity. We at Fathom have very successful teams. They are extremely profitable. They've done a really good job. I think you've had one or two, if not more, of those team leads in your show before. Who run this as a significant business and very serious. And that's what I would do. I would basically go imitate what some of our agents at Fathom have done, and some of them have done phenomenal jobs of building, very significant businesses. So
let's take that for a second here. I know I'm kind of going
you're pushing me
rabbit trails here, but no. So we have an agent, or we'll meet agents that they're doing by themselves 30, 40 transactions a year. We had Jen Golden on here that did 80 plus transactions by herself.
Yep.
I mean, her husband works with her on that. But then, other agents want to kind of, they hit a certain mark and they want to start a team. What would be your thoughts about being a top agent versus a team person? And I know, you just said that you would prefer the team, but where do you see the benefits?
I prefer the team because it's scalability and can be bigger, right? I mean, as a single agent, I know Genevieve, but Genevieve is sometimes I think Genevieve is an alien because, to do 80 transactions by yourself, and I know Jeffy helps her, but she's, one of the top agents in the country by herself. I mean, she's a phenomenal agent in person, but she's not, I mean, she's not the average out there, and she's
Right.
exceptional, right? Um, and so, if as a single person, there's a limit how much you can do, and so by having a team, it's a scalability issue, right? You can do much more, and I know you've had other team leaders from our company in the show, and they close 300, 400, 500. I know some of them have aspirations to get as high as 1,000 transactions a year, and so it's a much more scalable, bigger business, right? So it's about scale. How big do you want to be? And because I understand the value of my time, what I can do as a single agent, I can do much more by having a team. Other people, I also have the skill sets to go do that. If you don't, then you certainly can start as an individual. And then when you hit a certain level, like 30 transactions, I think 30 tends to be the volume, 30 to 40. When you start thinking about, and certainly Josh is an expert on this, I'm not. I don't even have a real estate license. But you start bringing a buyer's agent, you start bringing some help to start building your team. And I know Josh can write books and books about teams and how to manage a team and start a team. But for me, it would be just building a team because of that scalability and the size. But I'll say for most people, you should start as an agent first, build your business to 30, 40 transactions, depending on investment, your ability to invest, maybe a little lower, and then start thinking about building the team and learning. Look, it's a learning process, right? You have to understand it takes time to learn how to do this and seek the advice of others who have done it, right? I mean, I think it's important. No one knows everything. And, there are plenty of people out there who have done great jobs with building teams and we shared their knowledge. I think it's one of the great things about Fathom and Fathom agents, that they're so open to sharing their knowledge. But I would focus on that, building your business first, and then after a certain level, build a team.
This is from Sean, and he's in the industry, but not as a real estate agent. Sean Varon, he said, hit the ground running with massive social media campaigns in the first 30 days and never stop posting on it. Create CRM for drip campaigns, hammer Facebook leads. It would be a great way to jumpstart any real estate career. Find great mentors and partners, which is what you said as well.
Absolutely. So look, social media is a fantastic tool to help your business. There's no question. But I would highly recommend that someone else does it for you. There isn't enough time to go do all that, and you have to be consistent. So certainly, Go Social Agent and Houseopedia provides great content. Yeah, I mean, years and years ago, people kind of check you out by going to your website. Today they go to your Facebook, they go to your, your social media presence, right? Do you have a Facebook account? Do you have a LinkedIn account? What are the reviews? I mean, that's how people now check you out. You have to have a social media presence. That's key. If you're not, then people are not going to choose you.
So, kind of going back to teams and efficiency and being a numbers guy, I would imagine this would be kind of where your brain goes to first. But where do you see waste happening or inefficiencies or things in teams that you think, oh man, if only you did this, I mean, as successful as you are, you could take it to the next, level.
There's so many. But the first one is a lot of people that have teams don't measure things. They're not measuring. They investing money in marketing, but they're not measuring the results. Understand what the cost is, right? Or looking at different marketing programs, whether it's Facebook or Google or whatever it is. Where are you investing your dollars and what the return? But really understanding, right? Because you can have a marketing vehicle that you spend less money. More money, and you're like, well, but I'm spending more money in this versus X versus Y. Yeah, but your conversion rate is much higher in X versus Y, so it might be worth it, right? So understanding the numbers and the return is where you're going to find waste, right? Because again, you're making that investment. And the second thing is you got to look at your time. You have to look how you spend your time and what your time is worth, because you have X number of hours every day. And those X number of hours have a value. What is the value and how you invest in your time? That's probably one of the biggest wastes that I see on agents, because they're not thinking like business people, and they need to.
I know we're kind of jumping all around here, but you'd mentioned this earlier, and in talking to you as well. Besides, agents have their required classes. What are you finding that the agents are doing to be the best educated agents that they can be? And maybe it's outside of real estate. Maybe it's just generally in business. But I'd be curious what your thoughts are.
Look, I think you have to recognize that you are a salesperson. So are you understanding sales techniques? Are you understanding how to read the other person, this profile, for example? So you are a salesperson. So you need to educate yourself as a salesperson, all the different techniques out there to become a better salesperson. If you're going to build teams and invest in marketing, you have to educate yourself about how to invest money, how to the ROI, the business aspects of this profession. And so many times, again, I don't see agents reading reading books or educating themselves about being a much better salesperson or being a better CEO of their own business, understanding the numbers and how to do that. And so that's kind of they have you look, as any individual in any profession, you have to continue to educate yourself. And if you're going to lead people, you have to learn how to lead people. So books about management. If you're building a big team, how do you manage people? How do you lead people? How do you interact with people? If you're going to be just a salesperson or real estate agent, how do you become a better salesperson? You have to invest in yourself to continue to get better and better for lots of reasons. One, your client is changing. Like, look at the difference between a millennial, right, and somebody in a different age bracket. Their needs are different. How they communicate is different. So you have to understand who your audience is and how I'm going to interact with you, right? You have to read the person, understand what the person's profile is. And so you have to continue to invest in yourself. And that's probably one of the larger shortcomings I see in agents, that they don't do that. They think all I need to know is real estate. I know how to show them houses. I know how to get the contract signed, how to negotiate. But they forget that aspect of dealing with the person.
So, and feel free to add anything else you want. This will be my last question for you, unless you say something and it, I guess, spurs another one. But any books?
I'm boring. There are not going to be a lot of questions.
Oh no, you're good. Any books that you would recommend every agent read, or things that have really helped you in your business?
Look, I was just talking to somebody about the book Good to Great. I was just talking to somebody about it's a phenomenal book. It just gives you a mindset of how become a different kind of company, a different kind of person. That is one of my favorite books. Is Good to Great. I also like an old book that I did that was Only the Paranoid Survive, but this is about businesses and reinventing yourself. It's really one of my favorite books.
How the Paranoid Survive.
Yeah.
Or Only the Paranoid Survive.
Yeah, it was by Andy Grove, who was the ex-CEO of Intel, who built Intel. And he's got a great quote that says, basically I'm paraphrasing, which is, you either reinvent yourself or someone's going to reinvent you out of business. So just think about, in our industry, how this is taking place today, right? Either companies begin to adopt different models or they're going to be out of business, right? Let's go ask Blockbuster how they feel about their business model, right? Or Sears or Toys R Us, and so you have to continue to think about that. And as a professional in this industry, you have to be thinking about, how do I continue to change my model as a business person, given all the changes that are happening in this industry. It's a great book, and it forces you to think differently.
On Kristen Wright's recommendation, I started listening to the podcast she recommended by Guy Raz. It's How I Built This, and just to that point, I was listening to he's now passed away just recently, but really kind of the inventor of snowboards, Burton Snowboards, and I forget the gentleman's name, but he was just talking about how for so long ski companies refused to make snowboards. I mean, they just stayed in their lane, and even to this day, most snowboarders don't want to buy snowboards from a ski company, even though they could probably make fantastic snowboards. But for so long they decided, this is never going to be a thing, and now they're losing a huge market share, piece of the market share.
You had to think outside the box. You also have to think about the consumer, how the consumer is changing. Yeah, they missed the boat on that one big time. I mean, and there are so many industries Then we can go back to IBM and Microsoft, right?
Right.
Missing the boat, right? I mean, if you're not willing to listen and willing to be open that what you currently have may not be around from years from now, how do you change and be open to change and be open to learning? But that's a great example of that. And so, look, I mean, with the exception, probably very few business models, nothing lasts forever, right? And so you have to accept that whatever we're doing today may not be around 20, 30 years from now, right? And so how do we adopt over change? Hey, listen, I'll go back. I was in the paging business, right? Some of your audience may go, what's a pager? Right? And so you have to learn, and I worked for PageNet. We were $1.5 billion in sales. I mean, we were a big company out of business in 2 years. You have to be open to change and learn and adopt. And so, yeah, I mean, you got to be a little paranoid. Look, this industry is about to change big time. And so you have to be a little paranoid and be willing to change and be open to different things and all of that. I see sometimes too many agents that, this is the way I do things. I've been doing this for 30 years like this. I'm not going to change. And they're going to be surprised someday. And so we hopefully at Fathom, we're preparing ourselves for change and helping our agents deal with that because it can be scary, and we understand that.
Well, I appreciate you coming on the show and
Do you
giving
still
your
have
insights.
I don't know if you have any viewers anymore. After this show, that will be the end of it.
I think
Nobody's
one
gonna
or
come
two are
back.
still hanging on.
Oh,
I don't
that's
know
good.
if they just kind of have it off in the
Yeah,
other
they're
room.
probably. I'm not as exciting as Josh or some of you other people, so.
So, well, appreciate it, and of course, for the rest. So I'll let you go here, but for the rest of our viewers, of course, if you haven't checked out Fathom, go over to fathomcareers.com. You can learn a ton of things about the business, about our company, offering great CRM, self-made or homegrown technology that really focuses on you, the agent. Stock with every transaction. We have local leadership, a great support structure, lots and lots of stuff for you. And if you're interested in joining, I think they might be even running a special as well on activation fees and all that kind of stuff. So check us out, fathomcareers.com. We will be back in the new year. So we won't be here on Christmas Day and we won't be here on New Year's Day, but we'll be here after that on January the 8th. So look forward to seeing you then, and we'll have a interior decorator talking about how to stage a home, that kind of thing, and how the snow's back, and as well as a husband-wife team, how they're doing real estate together, and yeah. So have a very happy holiday and New Year season and all that kind of stuff. We'll see you 3 weeks from now, Wednesday, 1:30 Central Time. See you then.